Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to try and make sense of a team that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense right now.
That's a good way to put it.
We're dissecting a very specific, very wild stretch of Golden State Warriors basketball that the source material we got from our listener perfectly called equal parts unstoppable and exhausting.
Yeah, that really nails it.
Because the data is just, it's all over the place. You have this complete systemic failure. I mean, getting obliterated by 37 points against the Thunder.
It's just a total meltdown.
And then less than 24 hours later, they come back with this gritty, high-octane 123-114 win over the Utah Jazz. That whiplash is what we're here to figure out.
Exactly. And this deep dive isn't just about, celebrating one win. It's about trying to understand how a team can operate on two completely different planets in the same day.
Right.
So the question we have to answer for you is, how does that happen? How do they swing so wildly?
Yeah.
And what does this very chaotic win tell us about their actual championship chances versus, the chronic problems that just keep popping up?
Okay, so let's start with the good news. The solution that night, the thing that stopped the bleeding, it was pretty obvious.
Blindingly obvious.
It was Steph Curry. The analysis we looked at is clear on this. It calls his performance the entire story of that victory.
It was more than just a good scoring night. It was like a sheer act of will.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what they needed after that Thunder game. I mean, we're talking about a surgical explosion. Curry drops 20 of his 31 points in the third quarter alone. That's not just scoring. That's a superstar saying, okay, enough, and just taking over.
And I think the key detail there, the one that sometimes gets lost, is the efficiency. He was almost perfect in that quarter, shot 6 of 7 from the field,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It doesn't just put points on the board, it completely breaks the other team's spirit.
It's demoralizing.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Because when Curry gets into that kind of zone, the other team can do everything right on defense, and it just doesn't matter. And we saw that perfectly with his go-ahead three-pointer. There were 7 minutes left in the third. That shot was just, it was vintage Curry.
Totally.
It just sucks the air out of the building and reminds everyone why he is still, even now, the most dangerous offensive weapon in the entire league.
He finished with 6 threes in total, and you really get the feeling he single-handedly dragged them over the finish line. But, that brings up another question. What's the cost of relying on one guy to explode for 20 points in a quarter?
Well, the cost is your system. It means your entire game plan is basically hope Steph goes nuclear.
Yeah.
A real championship team has a structure that wins them games, even on off nights. This win was the exact opposite of that. And it sort of teaches the younger guys that the answer is just to wait for Steph to be a superhero.
That's a great point. It doesn't build discipline.
Not at all. It just proves that, for now, brilliance can bail out dysfunction.
Okay, so while Curry was delivering the salvation, the night just couldn't pass quietly, The drama had to show up. Let's unpack this. Let's shift from Curry's heroics to Draymond Green's latest ejection.
And this is where the whole thing starts to feel so fragile again. So Green gets tossed with about 2.5 minutes left in the second quarter. The reason? Back-to-back technicals for arguing a defensive 3-second non-call. But it's the pattern that's the real problem.
It really is.
Yeah.
The incident itself is bad enough, but the stats around it paint a much darker picture. This was his second ejection in his last 4 home games.
Which is just.
Yeah.
You can't have that from your veteran leader. It moves beyond a simple mistake and becomes a real tactical problem for the team.
And it connects to a bigger issue, right? The technical foul count.
Oh, absolutely. So, to spell it out for you, he's now sitting at 9 technical fouls for the season. That puts him just 7 away from an automatic 1-game suspension.
7 away. And we're not even at the All-Star break?
Exactly. So he's not just playing game to game anymore. He's carrying this huge strategic weight. Steve Kerr has to manage his minutes, his emotions, everything, knowing one more outburst could cost them a key player down the stretch.
It's a self-inflicted wound.
It is. The question isn't, can they survive without him for a half? Because they did. The question is, how can you build a championship run when your defensive anchor and primary playmaker might just disappear at any moment?
But this is where the story gets so contradictory and honestly hard to analyze, because the data right after he left, it's confusing.
You're talking about the plus minus.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. The team went plus 19 after Draymond was tossed from the game.
And that number is so deceptive. It's a statistical trap. You cannot look at that plus 19 and think, oh, they're better without him.
Right. It feels like a temporary surge.
It is. You could maybe argue it forced other guys to step up, but we have sources inside the team basically saying that's not a real path forward.
And Jimmy Butler, who was on the floor that night, he kind of summed it all up.
He did. He was quoted directly, and this just hits the nail on the head. He said, "That ain't a formula. We need 23 out there. You can't build a championship run on it."
That says it all, really. Survival isn't a strategy.
Not for a championship, no.
And they needed every bit of that Curry firepower because the Jazz did not make it easy. This was not some cakewalk win.
Not at all. The Jazz were in this game deep into the fourth quarter, and a big reason for that was the Warriors' own mistakes. I mean, Lauri Markkanen just torched them for 35 points.
And the rookie, Keontae George, was fantastic. 22 points, 9 assists. He was really pushing the pace.
He was. And this is the other chronic issue we have to talk about. The turnovers. Utah turned 15 Warriors turnovers into 22 points. Just think about that.
Yeah.
They gifted the Jazz 22 points just by being careless with the ball.
That's a massive number. That's what keeps a team in a game they should maybe be losing.
Exactly. The game was only decided when that firepower gap, which is just a fancy way of saying Steph Curry exists, finally became too much for Utah to handle.
So if you zoom out, you see a team that's 19-17. They're in the playoff hunt, for sure. But Steve Kerr must be dealing with this full plate of just systemic, long-term problem.
Right. The win almost makes it worse, in a way. It just highlights the cracks in the foundation. It shows their ceiling is still incredibly high, but their floor is dangerously low.
So let's break down what the analysis says Kerr has to fix. What are the big takeaways?
Okay, so the first one, and this was kind of stunning to read in the notes, is the chronic turnover problem.
Yeah.
The source material suggests that Kerr has, and I'm quoting here, given up trying to fix it. Basically sees it as part of the team's DNA now.
Wow. That's a huge admission from a coach. To just accept it.
It's a stunning admission of defeat, really. It points to something much deeper than just sloppy passes.
Okay, so if that's unfixable, what's the second major problem?
The second, obviously, is Draymond's inability to stay on the floor. It's not just the techs. It's losing your defensive quarterback, your emotional leader, in the middle of a game, forcing everyone to adjust on the fly.
And the third point seems to be the result of those two things combined.
Precisely. The third issue is just general inconsistency. When you have unfixable turnovers and an unreliable key veteran, you get what we're seeing now.
What the source called title contenders one night and a lottery team the next.
That's it. It's the ultimate boom or bust team, and the drama just keeps feeding that volatility.
That win really confirms that Steph Curry can still be a miracle worker, but it doesn't fix any of the structural problems. They survived, but like you said, survival isn't success.
And my final thought is really about separating those two things. Individual brilliance from sustainable team structure. Curry's 31 points were incredible, and they avoided a terrible loss. But that's not a foundation for a championship.
Right.
For them to be a real contender, they need Draymond's presence, his defense, his playmaking, all of it. But they need it to be reliable. They need it without the ejections, without the constant distraction.
That's a perfect synthesis. Thanks for walking us through this. It's a fascinating, if not frustrating, look at a team trying to balance its own genius with its own dysfunction.
Absolutely.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to mull over. Given everything we've talked about, the high technical foul count and the chronic turnover issue, which of these two problems poses the more immediate threat to the Warriors' playoff hopes? Is it Draymond's availability, or is it the team's careless offense? We'll see you next time for another deep dive.